I can still hear my late political lecturer quote that famous line from William Shakespeare. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. It was his favorite line from that classic Shakespeare political play, Julius Caesar. But if my political lecturer was alive today, I would have been the first to tell him that this does not apply to the life of a great Kenyan called Charles Rubia, who quietly passed on in his current home a few hours ago. The late Charles Rubia was the very first black African mayor of Nairobi. And of course, in those days, in the 60s, you had to be very connected to be able to get such a post. You had to be accepted by the regime to actually hold such a position. But late in life, Charles Rubia did the right thing, at great cost to himself, because he never recovered his health. At the time this man decided to plunge into the deep end, because that's precisely what he did, by challenging the dictatorial one-party state government of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. At the time he did this, Rubia was a rich man. He was comfortable. And he had the choice of continuing to live a comfortable life or choosing to fight for a better Kenya. He chose the latter with the dire consequences. But today, we enjoy the fruits of his sacrifice. Even those of us who do not want to know who Charles Rubia was. Bwana Rubia will be forever remembered as one of the very few Kenyans to be detained twice by the Daniel Toroitich arap Moi government. Actually, I can only think of two. One was Charles Rubia, and the other, of course, is Raila Amolo Odinga. Rubia was first arrested in February 1987, and the state accused him of financing the Mwakenya movement. Interestingly, it is still debatable whether such a movement ever existed or it was a creation of the state. He was held for almost a week at the dreaded Nyai House torture chambers. But many believed his connections intervened and he was released without being charged. Then came the press conference that everybody wants to remember Charles Rubia for. On March 3rd, 1990, Mr. Rubia, together with another gallant great Kenyan, the late Kenneth Stanley Njindo Matiba, held a press conference at Chester House that left the entire nation, and indeed region, shell-shocked. They called for a return to multi-party democracy and even called for a peaceful rally at Kamkunji grounds on July 7th, 1990. Rubia was arrested shortly before the rally on July 4th. He was in the company of Matiba. And he ended up cooling his heels in detention for 9 months. He was released after doctors confirmed that he was in need of very urgent medical attention. And the truth is, Mr. Rubia, as well as Mr. Matiba, never, ever recovered from their incarceration. Matiba became what we can only describe as a human vegetable. Charles Rubia, too, though not as bad as Matiba, suffered greatly for the rest of his life. Personally, I find it super interesting that newspapers and the press remember Rubia and call him veteran multi-party crusader. Nobody remembers his earlier life. Actually, there's a message here for all of us. And it is this: it doesn't matter what you have done so far. in that it is not too late, to join the ranks of great Kenyans who fight for a better Kenya and make a difference. Every Kenyan should be inspired by the life of Charles Rubia. Stand up today and stop counting the cost or the possible cost of you fighting for a better Kenya. And don't tell me I don't know the cost. Because my family members will tell you very well the cost is normally very high. It was extremely high for Charles Rubia, and yet nobody is talking about building a leadership institute in honor of Charles Rubia. Instead, we want to do it for other people, which is okay. That's really how Kenyans are, and you can't change that overnight. But folks, in your prayer tonight, remember the Rubia family and thank God for this great Kenyan family that gave us a great son who was ready not to count the cost, but to do something for a better Kenya. Even when he knew that he himself would never enjoy that better Kenya he was fighting for. My friends, that is the only spirit that can save Kenya now. I take off my hat to Charles Rubia. Fare thee well, gallant Kenyan. Until we meet again. And don't forget to say hi to Njindo, Kenneth Stanley Matiba. Tell him in Kenya, bado mapambano. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekuja. Everything is gloomy in Kenya at the moment, especially the economy. And in many parts of the world, it is the same. So why should any sane person talk about making money in an economy where there's no money? Only a nutcase would do that, right? Actually, wrong. Because history has repeatedly shown us that the best time to make some serious money is when the economy is suffering. And the more the economy is suffering, the better your chances of making some serious money. To date, the American Great Depression of the 1930s still holds the record of producing the highest number of self-made millionaires ever in the history of the United States. People like this guy who produced the game of Monopoly, which somehow made people feel great, because it involved handling dollar bills, which in real life in those days, they were not able to handle much. Okay, I understand you. Facts are great. But what does one do faced with the harsh realities of no money? Glad you asked. Because I've just completed producing an amazing documentary, a 3-part documentary, titled How to Prosper in a Gloomy Economy. People on this channel are always talking about how my videos have changed their lives. But folks, this is the real deal. And what is more, there are no theories here, only very practical stuff. Let me just give you one example of what I mean. If you've ever lived in a foreign country, you know how difficult it is for a foreigner to start a business, even a small business. Well, I was once stuck in a foreign country with no money, and I successfully started a business. And what's more, and I believe very important, without breaking any of the laws of that country. It can be done. And people often make the big mistake of assuming that the most important component in a successful business is money. It isn't. It is simply a well thought out ideal idea coupled with a brilliant way of finding customers quickly and cheaply. That's it. My amazing documentary will hold your hand and help you find the ideal idea for where you are right now, even if it's your own country, going through perhaps the most difficult economic times in its history. I want you to change your mindset right now and decide that every time you see the word problem, every time you see a news item with a problem, a serious problem people are facing, replace that word problem with the word opportunity. In my documentary, I not only tell you precisely how to do this, I give you practical, real life examples of how it was done before, or how it has been done before by many, some of whom I helped and some of whom have never met me. So, take action right away. It is okay to celebrate Christmas, but just make sure that you hit the year 2020 running. Because I know, you know, and I don't need to tell you, that those who will reach 2020 still waiting for something to happen and not doing anything about it are going to have a very difficult 2020. The full documentary costs only $54 or 5,400 shillings. But if you want to order only one part of the documentary at a time, which you can, it will cost you only $19 per part. And I've already told you it's in 3 parts. And there's more. Yeah, if you order all 3 parts together, I will throw in the amazing ebooks, 101 brilliant business ideas that will thrive in Kenya or anywhere else in the world, and also how to get plenty of customers right away. I will send you those 2 ebooks completely for free. I highly recommend that you don't waste any time in making this investment in the year 2020 that will make all the difference.